Never go to a cemetery alone to pay respects, because the next second someone might suddenly appear and grab you. Just moments ago, Barbara paid respects to her deceased parents and lamented on how she had to sell the family house, but suddenly a dark figure crawled out of a grave pit behind her and slowly approached her. At that moment, Barbara sensed something was wrong, but it was already too late. Soon after the fire department arrived at the scene, the cemetery caretaker informed the captain about the situation. It turned out that Eligio was a gravedigger. Half an hour earlier, while he and his partner Starvos were digging a grave pit, a sudden force pulled them underground. Luckily, Eligio managed to climb back up, but Starvos was still trapped below.
Sinkhole. The quake shifted everything around down there. We're all basically walking around on eggshells and bubble wrap.
Upon hearing this, the captain immediately initiated a rescue operation. However, as soon as they approached, the sand began to collapse.
This whole side is like quicksand.
Buck speculated that Starvos might not have survived since he had already been buried for half an hour, but Bobby disagreed. He suspected that an air pocket might exist beneath the quicksand, so he immediately used a thermal imaging camera to search. Soon he detected Starvos' presence. They quickly laid wooden planks around the area and began digging. However, the moment they used a pickaxe, the ground next to them suddenly caved in. It was clear that digging like this wouldn't work. Hen suddenly noticed an excavator nearby. She immediately climbed into the driver's seat, and with the help of the excavator, they soon reached the air pocket. Inside, they found Starvos trapped. Fortunately, a tilted coffin had blocked the sand, creating a small space for him to survive. The team quickly pulled him out, preparing to send him to the hospital. At that moment, Hen felt uneasy. She hoped that the spirits below would understand their actions.
But who understands?
The spirits we disturbed. I don't need that mess following me.
Buck shuddered upon hearing this, and just then, the clown was performing a show for the audience. Today was the boy Darren's birthday. The clown wanted to give him a toy. He asked Darren if he liked giraffes.
Giraffes are my favorite animal.
This surprised Darren's mother Juliana, because very few people knew that he liked giraffes. Darren's birthday wish was for his father Ted to spend the day with him. At that moment, the clown had already made a giraffe out of balloons. Darren was overjoyed. Next, the clown decided to perform a dance for everyone. Little did he know that danger was approaching. Juliana quickly called 911. Firefighters arrived at the scene swiftly. Juliana explained the whole situation to the captain, but when Owen saw that the trapped person was a clown, he froze. It turned out that Owen had coulrophobia, the fear of clowns. Paramedic Tommy thought he had a panic attack and it was necessary to check his blood pressure, but Owen immediately refused. All of this was connected to his childhood experience. Meanwhile, the rest of the team discussed a rescue plan. They used tools to pry open the wooden boards. At that moment, the clown was stuck between the wooden planks. After checking, his blood pressure and pulse were normal. However, when the Tommy asked for his name, the clown hesitated. After her persistent questioning, he finally told the truth. It turned out that he was actually Darren's father. Since he didn't have custody, he had disguised himself just to attend his son's birthday. Unexpectedly, his plan backfired, leading to an accident. The firefighters felt embarrassed for him. Now they needed to get him down as soon as possible. They brought a chainsaw and widened the opening. Ted was successfully lifted onto a stretcher. He kept apologizing to his ex-wife Juliana, begging for her forgiveness. Because he had ruined their son's birthday, Tommy decided to take him to the hospital for further examination. Unexpectedly, Darren pleaded with his mother to go along. Juliana gladly agreed.
Okay, we'll go with him.
In the office, Melina spent the whole day trying to ask out her work crush Marco. As the day ended, Marco finally gave her a gift.
You got me a present?
She gathered the courage to give him the gift. She had bought tickets to the Philharmonic Orchestra.
Oh, Malia.
You have plans, don't you?
No.
You're not interested.
He didn't answer,
I'm sorry.
and she tried to back away, falling into the open elevator doors and landing on top of the elevator. Soon firefighters arrived. The captain was furious at the maintenance man for poor safety measures.
I suspect, what the hell were you doing with this elevator?
Fixing it?
No safety cones, no caution tape, no signage.
After checking, paramedic Hen said Molina seemed to have only minor lacerations and showed no signs of blood pooling. After the power was cut, Bach rappelled down and successfully secured the elevator car. At that moment, Molina said to Marco, "I'm really sorry about the present." Marco replied that he just didn't want to go to the concert because it was triggering for him. His ex-girlfriend was in one and had left him for another member of the orchestra.
Truth is, I've had a crush on you for months.
Oh, you have?
They agreed to go somewhere else.
Sorry.
The man just went to throw away the garbage. Unexpectedly, he almost lost his life because of it. He had just thrown the trash into the chute. When his girlfriend hurriedly ran over, she said the garbage bag contained a gift he had given her, so she asked him to retrieve the trash. Helplessly, the man stuck his head into the chute, only to find the garbage bag stuck in the halfway. He leaned in to try to retrieve the bag, but the next moment he accidentally fell into the chute. Firefighters quickly arrived. The man's thigh was stuck. Hanging in the trash compactor, the building manager explained that the machine starts every hour, but he had already cut off the building's power. Just as the captain was about to rescue him, the compactor suddenly started. The machine continued to compress the man. If he wasn't rescued soon, the consequences would be unimaginable, but the power had been cut off. Why did the machine still start? It turned out the building manager overlooked there was still an emergency power source in the building. Seeing the machine's inner wall getting closer to the man, the captain quickly pressed the emergency button. However, the button unexpectedly fell off. At this critical moment, the firefighter used a Halligan bar to support the machine's inner wall. The machine indeed stopped running. Just as the team was preparing to rescue, the Halligan bar suddenly fell off, and the machine resumed compression. At the crucial moment, the machine suddenly stopped again, leaving everyone puzzled.
What happened?
The captain quickly realized that a firefighter had unplugged the machine's power.
That works.
The firefighters received an emergency call. They were informed that someone was trapped inside a car. When they arrived at the scene, they found it was an electric vehicle. At that moment, the car was filled with toxic gas. A boy named Matt kept shouting for help. Due to a battery short circuit, he was unable to open the car door. The firefighters used tools to pry open the hood. They initially planned to disconnect the battery, but they discovered that the car had been modified. Seeing that Matty, the passenger, was struggling to breathe, they decided to break the car window immediately. However, Matt refused right away, because the car belonged to his father. But the firefighters didn't care about that. As the glass shattered, they successfully rescued Matt. At this moment, Matty's consciousness was starting to fade. Just as they were pulled out, the bottom of the car caught fire. The firefighters quickly grabbed a hose and started extinguishing the flames. Matt was overwhelmed with guilt. He admitted that he had stolen his father's car just to impress a girl he liked, but he never expected to almost cost her life. He sighed now that this has happened. My father will never forgive me. Soon Matt's father arrived at the scene after receiving the news. He also called for a tow truck. When they were about to tow the car away, the firefighters strongly objected. Although the fire on the surface had been put out, the battery was still hot, and there was a high risk of a secondary fire. But the man wouldn't listen. He insisted on towing the car immediately, because it was his property. The firefighters had no choice. The man then approached Matt, showing no concern for the danger his son had just faced. Instead, he only blamed Matt for being vain, and causing him a lot of trouble. During their argument, the car suddenly caught fire again. This made the man panic. The firefighters immediately started to put out the flames. The tow truck driver thought it was a minor fire, but within seconds the fire intensified. Captain quickly stepped in and ordered them to stop. He explained that once an electric car burns to this extent, it takes several hours to be fully extinguished. Continuing to fight the fire would only waste resources. Now the only thing they could do was wait for it to burn itself out. A Halloween party is in full swing, with a mounted LAPD officer on horseback monitoring the party. When a little girl dressed as Dorothy Gale comes up to him, the officer introduces his horse, City Slicker, to her, and offers her an apple to feed City Slicker. Unfortunately, trouble brews when a fire breather accidentally sets a guy's head on fire while he was discharging flammable hairspray, and it ignites. And City Slicker is spooked by the chaos, causing his handler to fall off the mount and protect the little girl, while City Slicker runs off in a panic. Multiple 911 calls come in for LAFD assistance, soon followed by an officer down call over the LAPD channel. It is soon discovered that City Slicker is the officer down, having fallen and critically injured his head, with Los Angeles County Animal Control too far out, and not wishing City Slicker to suffer until they arrive with the veterinarian medication for him. His handler asks for City Slicker to be euthanized to end his suffering. Bobby volunteers to administer the lethal morphine injection, and every LAPD and LAFD member there join arms in unity to pay their final respects for City Slicker's service to Los Angeles, as the little girl dressed as Dorothy arrives to comfort the officer as he says goodbye to his steed.